November 13th, 2018 meeting to order. First item of business is approval of the minutes from the November 20th meeting. Any changes or additions? Seeing none, next item is citizen comments. And I know for a fact we have somebody tonight, so come on up. We just need you to state your name for the record. The floor is yours.
I know I've met and talked with most of you. For you that don't know me, my name is Brandon Woods. I'm the president of the Local 2119, the International Association of Firefighters. I wanted to come and speak to the commission in this meeting because we're 1 day short of the year anniversary of voting to opt out of para. It was last year on December 14th. And since then, I've kind of taken my time and gone to other locals at different conferences or just, on the phone and talked to them about, what they've done other than para to keep that working relationship with the city and employee groups. The one that stuck out to me, I can't remember all the cities that are under their own ordinance regarding this, but Lawrence, Kansas was. So I kind of used theirs and played with it and wrote out this draft that you have and answered some of the concerns regarding para that were brought up last year. So in going through the ordinance here, the first part of it, the governing body of the city of Hayes is come to not, doesn't want to be under para. You guys voted on that. We know that. The second part is the city of Hayes wants to subscribe to the precepts of home rule, which is worded in the Kansas Constitution, and it pretty well states that employee relations are most suitable conducted at a local level. So kind of like you guys were saying before, you had problems with some of the groups not representing their full eligible membership as stated in para, and we raised a complaint, and it was the timeline of waiting on an answer from the para group or the state to come down and voice their opinion on that. This would keep the power here in Hayes and with the commission. Going through the sections of the ordinance, section 1, pretty straightforward. It's just definitions. The city is you guys, the employee groups are us. That's pretty cut and dry. Section 2, the employee groups. I took that right out of the agreements we have in place. It states for the firefighters is just the firefighters and the lieutenants, PD and public works employees. It's all out of their contract, so nothing's new in that section. Section 3 is titled Discussion. Now, if you read through this, it just says the city commission shall permit group discussions between its administrative staff and representatives and the 3 designated employee groups. Now, the ending of this is the important part. These discussions will be permitted to groups representing the majority of its eligible members. This stating, and I left that the majority because I'm not going to come here tonight thinking that you guys are going to be wowed by my public speaking and take this ordinance into effect and we'll go home happy. This is just a draft. With that majority, that's something we can discuss in the future. We can come up to a number that we can both agree on, and again, that number has to be met by us, or we answer to the city, you. We don't have to wait on the state to come and address that. Section 4 is the intent to meet and confer. This is simply saying by the end of January, I need to present to the department head and the city manager or his designee proof of representing a majority of the eligible members. And the said document will name our executive board and our bargaining unit. Nothing's really changed in that, how we've worked in the past, other than in that email or however we want to send that. I'm just going to have proof that I represent, X of the eligible members. So every year we'll have that renewed assurance that we are representing the majority. Section 5, the meet and confer process. This, with the new pay plan that has been approved by the commission, with this guaranteed 2% a year going forth until we max out, this opens up the door for us to not have to meet every year. We can develop a true 3-year or longer contract. We do have a 3-year contract in place now. What we met and conferred on every year was wages. And it was a hard one to, every year to get together and meet on wages. With this, we can meet every 3rd year. You guys don't have to put up with us those 2 years in between. And then every 3rd year, we can negotiate on a cost of living, which is just facts. You can go on multiple websites, find that information, anywhere, have different ones to compare of the cost of living around Hayes or just what the trends that have changed in that 3 years. Going down through that, you'll see just some deadlines. And we've had deadlines in the past about impasse, but these, setting that we need to start them by the end of April. Again, present the proposed changes in writing. Have an impasse by the end of June, which is pretty close to what we had in the past. Getting to the end of this, some things changed also. We would still keep state mediation from the federal mediation and conciliation services. After that, if there's still an impasse, before we went to fact finding, we chose an attorney, city, the unions. With this, the fact finding would be done in front of you, the commission. So again, whatever disagreements we still had at the end of negotiating, we present to you. There's no outside cost going to an attorney. There's no time to wait on him to go through all the information. It'd be me standing in front of you, the commissioners, the city standing in front of you, commissioners, and the decision stays in the city of Hayes. So with this ordinance, that's what I feel is a huge change from being under para, is that the power of our negotiations, our relationships, stays here. Going through the rest of the ordinance, the section 6, job action, strikes, and lockout prohibited, pretty well worded, the same as it was in para. And then the next one, the prohibiting practices, is nothing new. It's just how it was worded in para. So in closing, I just wanted to come here tonight on the year anniversary and give one last idea out there. Para had its faults, but it did open the doors for us to have that harmonious and cooperative relationship. And I feel that this ordinance will allow us to continue that, not only for my time at the City of Hayes, but for the future employees of the City of Hayes. Because I think it was Ms. Jacobs said before that, the city has taken good care of us under the administration that it is now, but also under, that was brought up by other commissioners that, it wasn't always like that. And there's no guarantee that it will always be like that. So at least this would still give the employee groups that voice to just come to the table and talk. Because, it's not a guarantee that without this that it would be there. So with this being said, you guys have any questions about this, how it is written? Again, I'm a fireman. I'm not a law writer. I did my best to.
Makes you feel better. I'm not a law writer either.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming. As I told you in my email, I'm not interested in making any changes,
Understood.
but I appreciate your time.
Okay.
I really am comfortable with the decision that we made originally. I actually spent some time visiting with the city manager and the HR director through the city manager, and everything seems to have been fine this year. There's been no issues addressed on either side with the union not being in place. I'm comfortable with the decision the way it was. Thank you. But I thank you.
Thank you.
And, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I missed out on a year ago, but I don't see any. We're looking out for the city of Hayes itself.
Yes, sir.
I don't see any true benefits for the city itself, as much as it is the groups. I, like Sandy, have not seen or heard of any problems. And if we're not having problems, then I would rather stay where we're at.
Understand. And again, like I stated, there were no problems this year without having a voice. That doesn't mean that it's going to be the same, next year, 10 years, 20 years down the road. Like I said, with this pay plan, this is a change that, needed to happen before. I've met with Toby when this was getting brought up, and I presented to him that I would stand up here with him, and the other two unions would too, to present it as a group. That was before all this got brought up. So yeah, there was no problems this year, but this is just a guarantee that we can still come together and meet, in a friendly environment and just talk out of if we do have a problem. Because without being acknowledged and without having that, open table, it's not a guarantee.
I think until there's a problem, then you could revisit it, but things
good.
seem to be running very smoothly at this time, so.
And I do support the right of the employees to organize and collectively bargain on their behalf. That hasn't changed.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thanks
for
very much,
coming.
Brandon. Appreciate it. Next item is employee promotions and new hires.
Hello, Commissioners. Ryan Hagan's Chief, Hayes Fire Department. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing to you our new Deputy Chief, Shane Preston, who formerly spent the last 5 years as a Chief of the City of Russell. He is a graduate of the KU Certified Public Managers Program and brings in years of experience. Married, 2 young daughters, and I look forward to working with him and the energy and new ideas that he's bringing to the Hayes Fire Department.
Welcome to
Welcome.
the department.
Glad
Thank you
you're
so
here.
much for coming tonight.
Okay. Next item is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
I have a motion by Commissioner Swaller, second by Commissioner Jacobs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Next.
Signing.
Yeah, thank you for that. Next item is an update from Grow Hayes. Doug, that's you, bud. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Doug Williams, Director of Grow Hayes, and I thought I'd come tonight and kind of bring you up to date on what's happening and kind of where we're at. My agenda tonight is where we've been, where we are, some programs we're running, partnerships we're involved in, and try and answer any questions that you have. The Chinese saying, may you live in interesting times. I would say that from a national, local, and everything else aspect, we definitely live in interesting times, and it's been interesting times at Grow Hayes in the last year. If you had told me a year ago that I would be here talking to you in this capacity, I'd have told you were crazy. I would have had no idea. I went on the board of directors at Grow Hayes in January, and much has happened since that time. Many of you have, I think maybe all of you, have served on the board of Grow Hayes, or what was formerly the Ellis County Coalition for Economic Development in the past. So you have more history with this organization than I do, certainly. But my message to you tonight is it's not the same organization, I can tell you that. In January, we went from 25 board members to 13. We actually only had 12 because we didn't have a representative from Victoria this year. That's one of the mandates of our board, is to have one from Victoria, one from Ellis. 5 of the original members stayed on our board for some institutional knowledge and some continuity. 8, or in this case 7, new members came on. Since that time, we've changed our name, we've changed our location, we've changed our director, and we've changed about everything about the organization. We changed our name in March. We felt that it was time to rebrand the organization, also to come up with something that maybe represented and was a little easier to say than the Ellis County Coalition for Economic Development. And Grow Hayes was chosen, changed our logo, and it's been a good thing so far. We changed directors in May. I took over as interim director in May and agreed to be, I won't call it permanent director because we all know that these jobs are never permanent, but I agreed to serve as our full-time active director in October of this year. And we moved to the brief space in late summer. Where we are today, our mission has remained the same. It's business creation, business retention and expansion, and business recruitment. So amongst all the change, we still haven't changed what we're all about. You know, we are here to try and promote business in Ellis County. We have a new board of directors. Several of them are here. I'll just point them out. Karen Dreiling, Joseph Beckner, Mary Martin, and Bob Muirhead. I haven't missed anybody, have I? Mr. Shoemaker is an applicant for the board coming up. So we have, I'm really blessed, I feel, and one of the reasons I agreed to serve in this capacity because we have a very good board. They're dedicated, they're engaged. We have a diverse group of people with diverse backgrounds and diverse talents, and they're committed to growing Ellis County. I can tell you that without hesitation. We have 6 board seats that come open January 1st. The Victoria slot, 4 of the existing slots are up for renewal, and then I moved from a non-board member to the executive director. We have 10 applicants who have filed for those 6 seats, all of them good. Some of the existing board members and some new ones. And what we're looking to do, you know, the hard part is to tell somebody that we aren't going to be able to choose you. But what we try and do in this board is pick people who add to the board a unique talent or skill that will make the board stronger and better. And so in the next couple of weeks, we'll be deciding who those 6 are and be announcing who our new board members will be.
What kind of terms are you serving? What length of term?
They're 3-year terms, and because of the restructuring, that's why we ended up with this many changing, plus myself and the Victoria member. But there are 4 that came on with 1-year terms, and then the new ones will be on 3-year terms. I think we may have a couple that stagger in at 2-year terms.
Okay.
But that's kind of where, when the smoke all clears, they'll be on 3-year terms.
Are there term limits?
No,
Okay.
there are not. Maybe should be, but there aren't.
So they can serve forever at 3 years of slot.
3 years at a time. We are attempting to roll over. We don't want anybody serving life sentence with no chance for parole. We want turnover. As far as some programs that we're currently working on, you know, and they're probably the same ones that you may be familiar with back when you were on the board. We have an e-community loan program that we operate through Network Kansas, where we provide gap financing for startups and for existing business acquisitions, growth, that type of thing. We have taken over the servicing of those loans because we had some issues with the previous servicer. So we felt we wanted to be in control of our own destiny, so we're servicing those loans now. We've probably got 8 or 9 of them right now with a couple in the works, trying to help businesses grow, trying to help people start. It's basically money for down payment. You know, the bank provides X amount of dollars, but they're always going to want some down payment. We, via Network Kansas, come in and provide the gap money.
During some conversations, Doug, you had shared with me how many they had up in Phillips County.
They have 22 in Phillips County.
22 in Phillips County. Isn't that
Well,
amazing?
statewide, it's a very significant program, and it's expanded. In my opinion, merely opinion, we've never, until this point, leveraged this as much. We took some interesting choices. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Grow Hayes develops this program, because it has a lot of potential.
It really does.
Yes, it does, and it's a great program. I'll go into another project we're working on with the e-community program in a minute. And I'm going to try and not keep you too long. I know the Chiefs kick off at 7:20, so I'll try and
Who are they?
get you down the road there. But the loans are under attractive terms, so that they're better terms than they would get from the bank, but we do still expect them to pay it back. That's been a bit of a problem on a couple of them, and
Yeah, I was gonna say.
we're cracking the whip on those. You're probably familiar with our housing rehab program, done via a grant from the Hanson Foundation. And I have to say that this program has been a very successful program thus far. It basically provides a flipper the money to acquire a property, fix it up, and resell it. We're on our 5th. We've got 3 underway right now. The initial reason for doing it was to help the affordable housing situation in Hayes. So the maximum sales price of that home is $145,000. But it also achieves some other things. It improves neighborhoods, takes a house that may be in need of repair and improves the look of it in the neighborhood. It generates sales tax, something near and dear to all you, by materials and services that are purchased by the person doing the remodel. It provides employment and opportunity for subcontractors. And it provides an opportunity for a flipper to maybe make some money and spend it someplace in town and go do it again. And at the end of the day, it does provide housing in a price range that we have determined is affordable housing. We also have done a workforce development program via a grant from the Hanson Foundation, where we have done training for welding classes and CDL licensing. We've done 3 welding classes and 2 CDL classes, 1 welding class and 2 CDL classes in the last 60 days. We're still trying to get our arms around how successful those programs have been. The end result is, did these people gain a skill that they could go out and get a better job at and therefore earn more money, buy a house, buy a car, whatever it might be? And we don't have enough data back on that at this point to say that that's been a good program. On the surface, it all plays well, but we're trying to figure out if it really has been a good program.
Doug, do you also track whether those people stay here in Hayes or even within the state of Kansas?
We're attempting to. With the workforce people in town, we're trying to keep track and find out where those people have gone, what they've done. I know in a few cases, one of them got a promotion, one of them got a job at Hess, but overall, we need to understand if that money's being well invested or not. Then there's Brief Space. Brief Space is a co-working space. It's very unique to our community. You've all been there, I think. It's a pretty cool place. We are slower than we would like in terms of adoption of the concept of Brief Space, where people don't, they come out of their basement, they come down there, they work, and they collaborate with others. I'm frustrated that it hadn't happened faster than it has, but in talking to other co-working spaces around the country, they say 2 years is how long it takes to get that concept to be adopted. I will say this, the meeting rooms we have are being used a lot. And the comments we get from the space and people that come and use the facility are 100% positive. I haven't heard anybody really say anything negative about it. So far, it's been really good. And we've had Fort Hays State, TMP, the Hays Police Department, Nex-Tech, Hays Med, Sunflower Electric, all kinds of people have used our meeting spaces. In the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks, we'll be upgrading our meeting spaces with large screen TVs and devices that will allow you to do a presentation from a smartphone, tablet, computer, wirelessly. That'll be a big improvement as well. So things are going well down there, not as well as I would like, but I'm sort of patient. We shall see.
I haven't ever known you to say that.
The space is really beautiful.
It is.
And Karen, you did a really good, I know you were neck deep in that. It's really
Karen was
beautiful.
very involved in the design and the
Good job.
decoration, and it's got that industrial feel. And we've got a kid down there now. He just came down and he's renting an office down there because he needed the high-speed internet, and he does video editing for Netflix, editing 4K video, and he needed high-speed bandwidth, and he just loves the place down there because he can come down and work and do what he couldn't do at home or really anywhere else in town without buying a very high-speed connection. So that's the type of people we need to attract.
And 1 or 2 of those will attract others.
That's the theory. And that's what the people who are in this business and other places have indicated to us, is that it just takes time to get that adoption. In terms of other projects, we're working with prospects for travel centers at both exits. We've had some interest at both exits, the Commerce Parkway exit as well as exit 157. Most of the interest is in the 157 exit. We're working with the county and Hess and Hanson and many others on the Northwest Corridor project, which would be a bypass off of 183, down Feedlot and down 230th. It would help Hess's employees get to work. It would help Hess get their products out of their facility and on the road. If someday there was a travel plaza there, it would obviously reroute truck traffic that could be utilize that facility. It would help roundabouts with less congestion of large oversized loads on Vine Street. So we're very committed to try and get something to happen there. I've talked numerous times with Retail Strategies regarding prospects for Hayes for retail. I was actually on the phone yesterday with Claycraft with Retail Strategies. We collaborated on a few possibilities. Working with the mall, DP management at Big Creek Crossing. They're working some prospects and are reasonably optimistic. They've had a couple of disappointments on people they thought were coming that haven't pulled the trigger, but they're optimistic. Working with a prospect on the 10th Street land that the city owns that you put an RFP out for last year, was it, Jacob, thereabouts? Very initial stages. We're calling it the Depot Project for obvious reasons, but we'll see what happens there. But a combination of mixed-use development where there would be some commercial and some residential. And then also working with a couple of affordable housing concepts where we're trying to work with some landowners as well as some builders and looking at a different type of construction. You know, Hayes, it seems like we know how to build one thing, and that's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-car garage house for $300,000. And there is some feeling among some people that some new housing could be built if we could. Land cost always an issue, but if we could get into some land at a little lower cost and build a little different type of home, that we might be able to hit some different price points. Yet to be seen, but we're talking about it. Some events we have coming up, utilizing brief space again. We're going to do a pitch night on January 22nd. We would invite all of you. It'll be a Shark Tank type of event where we solicit would-be entrepreneurs or business owners who are looking to grow their business or acquire capital or sell their business or what have you to come in and give their pitch. And that'll be on January 22nd. In association with our e-community relationship with Network Kansas, we're going to do a youth entrepreneurship challenge on March the 20th. That's Ellis County high school students will come in and do a entrepreneurship presentations. Not totally different than what you do on campus,
We
Henry.
used to do this on
Just high school
campus.
kids.
Yeah.
It'll be limited to high school kids.
Yep.
The pitch night will be open to anybody. If a high school kid wants to come and do a pitch, that's fine. If somebody old like me wants to come and do a pitch, that'll be fine too. So we're doing those. We're also going to start some quarterly lunches at Brief Space, giving economic development updates. We'll be inviting you all to those. And
Like a lunch and learn type thing?
sort of, yeah.
Cool.
Be different topics. You know, might be some educational topics. Also, it might just be some briefings, and maybe trying to get people in there to ask for help to try and get some things done. We're going to launch a new website in the first quarter, and we're going to try and launch a newsletter to kind of keep everybody up to date on what's going on. So that's kind of what we got going, what we're working on. One thing I wanted to try and talk a little bit about before I get done here, and that's in my 6-month stint here as interim and in my month or so as the active director, the one thing I have found is it's kind of like affordable housing, or when you ask anybody a definition for it, you get a different answer every time. And economic development's a little bit like that. You know, when you ask the general public, it's a bunch of guys sitting around leaning on shovels.
That's not our guys.
Not our guy.
We don't have trees like that. We don't have any trees. Otherwise, you never know.
And most people view it as retail, right? I mean, that's most people's perception of economic development is.
Which one of
when
these
we
are you
gonna
getting,
get a
Doug?
target?
Which one of these are you getting? All of them?
All of them.
Okay. Okay.
Just a matter of which one goes
Big
first.
announcement.
You do know this is recorded.
This is Ernie's perception.
Or Ernie. Which
She's
one is she?
Overworked and underpaid.
Oh, okay.
If you don't believe her, just ask her.
She was the card, I don't know.
But in today's environment, you really do a lot of wheel spinning. And what it really needs to be is, we got to get outside the box. We got to do things differently. We've got to think differently. We have challenges that they haven't had in the past, whether it be workforce or, there's a host of issues that, high land costs or whatever that are potential inhibitors. And so we've got to think differently than we have in the past. And we've got to somehow innovate. We've got to be the guy who uses a dining room table to get across the lake with a motor on it. Because we can't just think that it's going to be business as usual and be successful. And we've got to think of ways to grow primary jobs, which is what these people are all about. That's where we've got to focus and try and help them. We've got to try and recruit some others that are like them. That's not an easy thing to do when you've got an unemployment rate of 2.1% in Ellis County. But these people are looking for people. We've got to figure out how to help them. And one thing I know for sure is that this is not a sprint. It's not going to happen overnight. It really is a marathon. It's going to take some time, and we've got to be diligent. And it's going to happen through partnerships. I don't think there's ever going to be a day where your economic development director stands up here and says, I brought Target to town. It ain't going to happen. Or Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever it is, or a new manufacturer. There's lots of people that are going to be involved in that and have to play a role in that. And it's going to be me, it's going to be you, it's going to be Jacob, it's going to maybe be Fort Hays State, it's going to be some of these people on this board of directors. It takes a village to make some of this stuff happen, and that's the way we have to look at it. And so it's an uphill battle. We face some overwhelming odds that in rural America, as we lose population and as things change, and so we've got to really work hard and figure that out. But I view my job as bringing all these resources together, or certainly a part of it. I'm not going to go out and recruit anybody by myself, but with some help from other people, I believe we can get it done. Any questions?
Doug, great presentation. Appreciate your board joining us tonight. I know they have other things to do, and appreciate your work over this brief period of time. Thank you. I do have one comment. Be careful with Northwest Corridor. That was a highway program for 30 years. It was going to develop a 4-lane road from Wichita to Hayes. So when you said that, I thought, you're building a highway, interstate from Hayes to Wichita?
Okay.
Yeah, different nomenclature. It might be
We may need to rename it a little bit.
Remember the Northwest Corridor, John?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was a big deal.
I think Phil came up with it, actually, so I'm going to blame him.
Blame him.
Not from here, Phil.
Doug, I want to congratulate your board on the decision to put you in that position permanently. I've known you for a long time, and I know when you decide something's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I've watched what's happened since you've started, particularly in the interim role. I think you took everything very seriously, and you began working with what I see now as an outstanding board and having the small size to work with. So congratulations on what you've done so far. It'll be fun to watch things happen.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
I really appreciate you coming, and I think you had a lot of good things. It was a good presentation, by the way. It was very good, and a lot of meat in there.
Meat.
It wasn't fluff, and I really appreciate that.
We all appreciate that.
Like when we had our lunch, I've just come to the conclusion that we have these lists of problems, and I really feel like those problems are all related back to two bigger problems, and one is that we don't have water, and I think we're going to solve that. I
Right.
think very shortly we're going to solve that. But I think the other problem is that not only us, but everybody around us is losing population. And I think that if we could solve the population loss, these other things would fall into place.
Right.
We would get the retail that we want. We would have the tax base to build the Northwest Bypass if we wanted to do that. We would have people coming to town to solve that 2.1% and unemployment problem. We would have people to put in jobs. And so anyway, I guess I don't know if it's necessarily a challenge, but what I see your group as is the group that can have a strategic discussion and have a strategy on how we're going to solve that problem. Because I think it's a huge problem that we never really talk about. You don't hear the county talk about it. You don't hear you hear other small towns talk about it, but nobody really has a solution.
Right.
They just try to do what other people have done, but they're not, as you said, thinking outside the box and trying to do something that nobody's ever done before. And even though we're a bigger town, we still have, and yes, we're growing, but everybody around us is not. And so we need to grow faster than what we are to make up for that if we're going to survive.
Exactly. That's the challenge. The little towns are feeling that we're not yet, but it's inevitable that we're going to.
We're going
if we don't
to.
do something about it.
Right. And I don't know what I don't think there is a solution. I think it's multiple solutions. But at some point, we have to figure out how we're going to get people to move to Hayes. And I think that you guys are the group that can get that done if everything continues to go where it is. And I congratulate you on the changes that you've made. I think they're all very positive.
Thank
So thank you very much for
I also
coming.
think, Doug, I think a good thing is you guys are not looking for stuff that is necessarily associated with the internet. The internet has really sucked a lot of life out of the whole United States into the metropolitan areas, and you guys are concentrating on something they can't fight us on, and that's people and
Right.
and products, and not selling those products, but getting those products and sending them out. So I think that's the key thing, is to stay away from internet-based solutions.
Well, it's a different world today, that's for sure.
Yes, yes.
It's nice to see board members here, too. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for
coming.
Yeah, thank you guys for
Appreciate
coming.
it.
Appreciate it very much.
We have a great board. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you all.
Next item for review is the 2018 boundary resolution.
I know. How crazy. Here it goes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. State statutes, Kansas statutes require cities to pass a resolution redefining the entire boundary line of the city of Hayes anytime new property is annexed into the city limits. A certified copy of that resolution is filed with the county clerk, register of deeds, and the state department transportation engineer. So the blue line on this map that we have up shows the new boundary of the city. The boxes in green are the newly annexed property over the last year, and the red boxes represent properties that are inside of there that aren't necessarily however, are not in the city limits. Following ordinances annex property into the city limits since the last boundary resolution was passed on December 14, 2017. Ordinance 3946, the Otley edition, directly west of Walmart, was approved on December 14, 2017. That was the same day as the 17 boundary resolution, so we needed to put it on this year. Ordinance 3953, the Crawford edition, that was the northwest corner of 48th and Roth, was approved on July 26, 2018. And Ordinance 3958, 5025 General Hayes Road, north of the Hayes Livestock Market, was approved on November 8, 2018. This satellite view gives you a little better orientation of those three. Ordinance 3946 is directly west of Walmart, intended for the new Hilton Garden Inn and Convention Center. Ordinance 3953 is in the northwest corner of 48th and Roth, where the new Tractor Supply is currently under construction. And finally, Ordinance 3958, directly north of the Hayes Livestock Market. We believe the members of the American Legion have plans for that site. So, pretty easy housekeeping item tonight. We just ask that you approve Resolution 2018-012 that redefines the boundaries, corporate limits of the city of Hayes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve ordinance 2018-012, redefining the boundaries, corporate limits of the city of Hayes, Kansas.
A second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Swallow, seconded by Commissioner Melick. Any discussion, questions? All for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Progress report.
I need time to drive home.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Jacob Wood, Assistant City Manager. This month's progress report.
Start off in Public Works, we replaced a pedestrian signal at 22nd MacArthur. This is one of the new flashing signals. You push a button, lights flash like the one that we have on Hall. We just replaced one of the older style. You may have realized we had some snow in the last couple of months. We had 3 events where we had to get guys out and move some snow. The most significant of those was on November 24th. It's interesting, these 3 snow events, we've spent about $20,000 on overtime, equipment, salt, that sort of thing. So it's not cheap or free when we have to move snow and ice, but the guys do a great job. In IT, you don't think of these guys having to come out when there's bad weather, but over Thanksgiving we had bad weather. They actually had to come out and fix an air conditioner that was in one of their server rooms. And they did that. It was in the dispatch center, so they had to come out and fix that in order to keep dispatch up and running. So those guys are on call just like anybody else. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that. Department of Water Resources, we've spent a lot of time in the last couple of months out in the public doing some education programs. Holly Dickman was at the Water Festival at the Sternberg Museum on the 3rd. There was a bunch of TMP students out there playing games and answering trivia questions, just learning about water conservation. Holly also presented at the Turfgrass, the 2018 Turfgrass Conference in Topeka. She had 50 or 60 people attend her session. Just talked about water conservation and what we do here. The police department, they participated in an event called No Shave November. This is something that's kind of done nationally where they raise money through actually just don't shave in November, grow a beard, and have people pay them for it. It's kind of interesting. Funds went to Prevent Cancer Foundation and St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. We had about 30 guys that participated in that program. Also had some police officers out in the public doing some education programs. They did drug and alcohol presentations to several schools. In the Parks Department, we've had guys moving trees, transplanting trees from our nursery out into parks across the community. We've had 22 trees planted in the last couple of months. At Ekie Park, you may have noticed that a new restroom facility is being put in there. This is a couple of pictures of the guys prepping the ground. The restroom was actually supposed to come in this week, so I don't have an updated photo, but that restroom should be on site right now as we speak. Parks Department's partnered with the Hayes Public Library to install free little libraries across the community. We have these in several parks and other public spaces. They're basically just a box where they put books in. Kids will go, or people will go and trade a book out. It's been a pretty successful program. We've had a couple of these in parks for quite some time, and we're just expanding that program with the library. Fire Department participated in a mutual aid drill with the Ellis County Fire Department. This was kind of an all-hands-on-deck training that they did with Ellis County. They had the Great Escape Challenge. They've been out in the schools educating about getting out of your house if there's a fire. They had a poster contest, and they hosted all the kids who won that poster contest at the fire department to eat dinner with the firefighters. Just to have a couple of things on project management. I'm not going to go into detail on a lot of things since John did that last week, but I wanted to talk about 22nd and Donald. This is something we've heard quite a bit about. This is a project that started in mid-October. Basically, it's a rebuild of the entire intersection there. Throughout this process, we have tried to keep this intersection open. We've maintained two-way traffic on 22nd Street and one-way southbound on Donald. Project has taken a little bit longer than we anticipated it would. There's been some weather concerns, and then with keeping it open, having to have the lanes closed down and move the traffic control, it's just taken a little bit longer than we expected, but it should be completed and everything cleaned up next week. Wanted to talk a little bit about the build grant. The City of Hayes was awarded a build grant in the amount of $6 million for the Vine Street corridor. This is a roundabout corridor that we've started design on a few months ago. The Department of Transportation reviewed 851 grant applications that included requests for over $10 billion in funding. 91 of those projects, totaling $1.5 billion, were approved to move forward, and we were one of those 91. So this is a pretty significant thing for the City of Hayes. $6 million is nothing to shout about. That's my salary for about the next 70 or 80 years. So I think it's a pretty good thing for the city of Hayes. One of the things, the build grant used to be called the Tiger Grant, kind of shifted to a new parameters, and one of the things was focus on rural America. So we were really able to kind of piggyback on that new focus and get in there with this project. So it's a pretty significant thing for the city of Hayes. At the airport, we have exceeded 10,000 employments for the year. I know last year we kind of had some debate on whether we went over or not, and it was a long time getting that clarification. And this year, November report, end of November, we've already exceeded 10,000. We're at 10,714 at the end of November. With this next month, we should hit an all-time record for the Hayes Airport. So things are going very well out there, and I will tell you that the city's been working to negotiate another fare sale. So we should have some more details on another fare sale coming up in January. We also did some updates at the airport. The airport lobby seating was updated just in the last month. They had the new style seats with USB plug-ins and things for passengers. We will also be doing some additional decorations. We're going to put some stuff on the walls out there, kind of spruce the place up a little bit over the next couple of months. And the CVB, they attended the Kansas Tourism Conference. They were awarded a first place marketing award for the new banners that are on Vine Street. And the CVB staff has been spending a lot of time working with Fort Hayes. I think they've kind of rebuilt a partnership out there. They're involved in anytime there's students or parents, anybody that's coming into the community, they come, and the CVB staff is there to greet people. I think they're doing an excellent job getting the city of Hayes out there in front of those students and those parents, those families. So that's something that CVB, Melissa Dixon, is really proud of the fact that they've been involved with that much more than they have been in the past. And just a couple of events that are coming up. We have the Holiday Craft Fair at Big Creek Crossing. We have the Frost Fest Parade on December 15th. And then the city, the airport, will be sponsoring a basketball game at Fort Hayes on January 12th. So, and just a reminder, this will be the last meeting that we have for the City Commission for 2018. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Commissioner Mel?
Merry Christmas.
I wanted to remind people, too, about downtown. Lots of things happening this weekend, but not only downtown. This whole month has had an amazing amount of activities throughout this community between churches. The CVB's done an outstanding job, DHDC. I think you'll find merchants, particularly in the downtown area, tell you they've never seen shopping like this during this time of year. And I'm assuming that's everywhere, the mall and Big Creek Crossing included. They're thrilled with it. There's people everywhere, and I think that's what it's all about. I, too, want to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas and a very safe and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all.
Same here. God bless the city of Hayes. We're adjourned.
You sign those cards.